Are we recording? All set. All right. Thanks, everyone. Welcome for today's WRAC meeting for Wednesday, March 6th. And I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome everybody here. Do we know that we have quorum or should we do a hands raise?
I believe we do. So let me,
Okay.
we do introductions.
We'll do introductions and confirm. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do introductions. Please, we always have new people here, and this is one of the main reasons that we are here is so that we can connect with each other and have regional collaboration, etc. So if you could state your name and your organization slowly enough so that a new person would be able to tag you later. So I'm Andy Pease. I am San Luis Obispo City Council member.
Tom Burhan, District 4 and Vice Chair.
Brian Nelson, Deputy Director of Public Works and City Engineer for the City of San
Steve Mulholland, Environmental and Knowledge. Mary Van Ryn, Agate.
NEB, the Formal Community Services District. Jim Guthrie, City of Roy Grande. I'm David Chipping, Environment at Large.
Linda Chipping, Coastal San Luis, RCD.
Lee Nesbitt, EPC. Matt Cook, Golden State Water, Superintendent of Los. Mark Zimmer, Golden State Water, General Manager. John Winstead, Agriculture.
Amy Henderson, Conservation Manager, Tassau Water Company.
Ron Lawrence, General Manager, Los Angeles CSD. Scott Duffield, General Manager, Aaron Branch, CSD. Tim Walters, Development Board. Nick Teague, Water Resources Program Manager, for the City of San Luis Obispo. Steve Carter, San Luis Obispo County Farm Bureau.
Patricia Wilmore, Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance, Agate Large alternate. Maura, RCD.
Tristan Reaper, Cambria Community Services District alternate, and I'm the head of the Water Conservation Program.
Jim Green, Utility Director, Cambria, CSD.
Josh Porter, County and Style Public Works, Water Resources.
Joe Style, County Public Works. Brendan Clark, County Public Works, Committee Secretary.
This one in the back.
Oh, yeah, and Clean Water City of Verbiage.
Great, thank you. And then we will go ahead and allow folks online for Zoom to say hi. Do we share the Zoom screen? Awesome, thank you. I'll say your name and then if you could unmute and say your organization. Jenny Williamson.
Jenny Williamson, County Public Works.
Thank you. Matt Scudato, sorry.
That's yeah. Hi, Andy. Yeah, Matthew Scudato, Santa Barbara County Water Agency.
Yeah, great. Thank
Good to see
you. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Is CCSD, is that ours or is that somebody there? Oh,
Leah Riedel with Cambria Community Services District Conservation, Water Conservation.
great. Thank you. Jeff Edwards.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Edwards from Los Osos, private sector land planning and water conservation.
Fabulous. Deborah Logan. It's optional to unmute and say hi. You don't have to. All right. Austin McCollum.
Austin McCollum, engineer with Black and Veatch.
Thank you. Lewis. Lewis Lefebvre. Yeah.
Yep, that's me. Hi, I'm Lewis. I'm with Carrillo Engineers.
Great. Thank you. And Troy.
Troy Barnhart, County Public Works.
Thank you. Courtney.
Courtney Howard, County Public Works.
Fabulous. Did I miss anybody who wants to say hi?
Andy, it's Deb Logan. I'm with Templeton Community Service District. Sorry about that. I was having problems unmuting.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Glad you're here. And anybody else that we missed that wants to say hi? Anybody in the room? Okay. Woo.
We have 19 in quorum.
19 quorum. Thanks, everyone, for being here in person. As a reminder, in order to be a voting member today, you need to physically be in the room, but we're really happy to have our folks online being able to participate. And with that, we're going to go, the first order of business is review and approval of December 6th meeting minutes. That is the last time we met, believe it or not. So happy to be convening together again. Any comments or questions about the December 6th minutes? All right, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Yes, minutes be accepted as presented.
Thank you, Christine. A second. Thank you, David. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Motion carries. Next order of business is removing me from this position. So awesome job, everyone. I've been on city council for over 7 years and then was part of WRAC pretty early on. And Linda Chipping pegged me to participate. Well, anyway, got involved, became the chair, and I've been doing this maybe 5-ish years. And we have term limits in San Luis Obispo. So I will be off of this committee in December. I will stay on, I'll be off of council in December. And so I'll stay on this committee to the end, but I wouldn't even be able to continue with that position. So now is our opportunity to elect a chair and a vice chair. And so time now to open the nomination for the position of chair. Linda.
I'd like to nominate Tom Burton.
Excellent choice. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion or nominations? Okay, can we do voice vote? Or do we need roll call? Yeah, voice?
Sure.
Sure.
I don't
Okay.
know.
All right, so all in favor of Tom, our current vice chair, becoming our chair, please say aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, sir. All right, and I will finish out just with vice chair and then I'm going to go sit down. So nominations for vice chair. Anybody, or self nominations? Really, I haven't, I haven't been too much of a stickler here. Anybody interested in vice chair? It involves maybe 3 times a year, a meeting with Brendan and the president then the chair to help plan, and then of course being ready to step up in the chair position. Jim Guthrie, woo! All right. Yeah, I nominate Jim Guthrie. Is there a second? Excellent. Jim, can you just stand up and just say briefly about yourself and, sorry, who was it? Eddie.
Okay, Guthrie from City of Roy Grande. I was on council from 2004 to 2016. I'm now back on council there. He's exactly the hazing assignment. Thanks to Chair Peter, much easier meeting.
Excellent. I appreciate that. All right. Any other nominations? I'm sure somebody could arm wrestle this away from Jim if they were so inclined. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor of Jim as vice chair, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations. All right. So I'm going to leave the laptop up here so you can call on folks as they have interest, and otherwise I turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Yes, thank you.
You have a packet.
I do, yes. All right. So we're on to item 4, which is consider submitting the 2023 annual report to the District Board of Supervisors. So in the packet is a draft of the report. I'll open it for discussion. Anybody have any comments on the letter? Christine.
Yes, when I was reading it, I was reminded
Yeah, when I first came on this committee in the late nineties, I was appointed by Sacred Guard supervisor, and I would periodically type up a little note and let her know what we have been doing. And I think this is a much more efficient way to do it, that we are doing it this way now in the last few years. And this was very well written, and I appreciate the time of all of you to put it together for us again. So I think this is exactly the way that we should be reporting to the Board of Supervisors, and thank you.
Any other comments? I think then we'll ask for a motion to approve it and send it to the board.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. All right. Voice vote, is that okay, Brendan?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. On to item 5. Receive a presentation from the city of San Luis Obispo on Mid-Higuera bypass project. I'll get out of your way.
Brian, just a second. Sure.
Okay. Brian, ready?
Yeah.
My name is Brian Nelson. I'm the city engineer with the city of San Luis Obispo. And I'll be here today to talk about a city project called the Mid-Higuera Bypass Project, also sometimes referred to as the Mid-Higuera Flood Risk Reduction Project, which is a flood control project that the city's been working on for over decades now at this point. So a little context, the watershed for San Luis Obispo Creek is bound by the outline in black here, which consists of a number of tributaries to San Luis Obispo Creek, such as Stenner Creek, Frizzler Creek, and others that confluence within the city of San Luis Obispo and ultimately discharge out at Avalon. This watershed is governed by the flood control zone 9 advisory body to the county, which was created to assist with county policy and project decisions for the zone, as well as provide funding for programs such as this project. The guiding document for the zone is the Waterway Management Plan, which was adopted in 2003, which provides the framework for the creek system, the hydraulic analysis of the system to show where the flood impacts are, as well as provides a list of capital projects that are preferred for flood mitigation, such as the Mid-Higuera Bypass Project. And it also establishes the drainage design manual for development within the watershed to minimize any future flood impacts from development within the watershed. So the purpose of the Mid-Higuera Bypass Project is to alleviate flooding within the San Luis Obispo Creek corridor from the Marsh Street Bridge overcrossing at the Marsh and Higuera intersection all the way to Madonna overcrossing. So the project limits are bound by this red box here. So to the west, we have the confinement from the 101 freeway. And to the right, we've got all the development within the downtown. So this blue boundary here is the 100-year floodplain within the project limits. And you can see there is a lot of development within that floodplain, which is exacerbated by the infill development from the city over the last 100 years.
And Brian, I'm just hearing a little bit of making sure that everybody is oriented. So kind of across the freeway is the Madonna grass area. Is that kind of a way for people to get oriented?
Yeah, so here's the 101. So this is the freeway, and then across is the Madonna, the fields. Here is South Higuera along here. So Madonna overcrossing is right here. This is Madonna and South Higuera. Up here is Marsh and Higuera intersection.
Right. Okay, so the donut store. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so the zone here, the city owns open space on the west side of the Slow Creek between the freeway and the creek. And then there's all these private developments here that have property lines into the creek and sometimes across the creek.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So the primary benefit obviously is flood control, But the secondary benefits of this project are to replace some aging infrastructure. The city has a 100-year-old bridge at Bianchi Lane that serves one property, the Madonna property. They have kind of a courtyard out there that they access, as well as the open space on that side of the creek. And then benefit to flood control for the project, but also for the environment is some removal of non-native vegetation and restoration of the creek habitat, which I'll get into a little bit more. So you'll hear me talk about storm return periods like 25-year storm, 10-year storm. Basically what that means is a 25-year storm, for example, has a 1 in 25% probability of occurrence in a given year, or about a 4% probability. So roughly, we generally think every 25 years or so, we might experience a 25-year storm. That's what people think of it. So this zone, and actually at the Marsh Street Bridge, if its maximum capacity can maybe serve a 25-year storm, but with still build up in the creek, the Marsh Street Bridge actually can only handle a 10-year storm. And looking, because I think if pictures tell 1,000 words in this, the location of this project, the upstream end at Marsh Street Bridge, is a site of flooding over the last 50 plus years. So here's a photo from 1962. You can see the on-ramp, the freeway on-ramps right here, that sign. This is the bridge and the railing of the bridge, with water, cresting the bridge, actually backing up against the railing there with some debris blocking that as well. In 1969, that was the Great Flood. That was the 100-year flood that actually saw floodwaters spill over the downtown creek channel. So this Slow Creek is actually in a culvert under downtown. So that can only handle about a 10 to 25-year storm, and it exceeded the flow capacity. And this is down Higuera Street through downtown. So the flows, there's the grade in the background. The flows came down Higuera to the project limits and all the way out, at LVR and Highway 101, where the flood zone really expanded to. So a good history there. Just a couple more photos here. Another flood occurred in 1973. Here again, the Marsh Street Bridge. There's the on-ramps after the flood waters receded. And then you got some cleanup work here after that same flood at the Marsh and Higuera intersections. It's the back here where I'm pointing is the gas station. And of course, we all know about last year's flood. We saw the exact same thing occur, just proof that, some flood control was needed in this area of town. Looking at the intersection again, this is looking south towards Higuera. Marsh Bridge is over here. Here's that intersection. Gas stations would be right here. We've got like 6 to 10 inches of flood water right there in the intersection. This is Bianchi Lane. I don't know what time of morning this is exactly, but water's cresting the sidewalks at the base of these traffic signal poles. So about 6 to 8 inches of flow through there too. And then kind of just a couple more here for context. Just South Street, off of South Street, this is what it looked like in the San Luis Obispo Creek channel on January 9th as well. And then this is flow downtown. One of the challenges with the creek system in the project area is really project areas downstream of a confluence of San Luis Obispo Creek and Stenner Creek. So they converge, and that's when all the tributary area north of that really converges and backs up water through a very confined creek system. And looking at the Marsh Street Bridge, this is the cleanup effort over here. You can see all the mud and debris that we were cleaning up the day after the storm. One of the helpful things that the county installed was the flood gauge on the bridge. And this line right here was the flow within the creek on January 9th. This is the full flow stage. And then this is the bottom of the bridge. So we woke up on January 9th, and at 4 in the full flow stage was already achieved. And by, I think this was, 6 in the morning, the stream gauge actually shorted out because the flow had reached the gauge. So pretty quick, downpour, the intensity of the rainfall can really exceed the capacity of that bridge pretty quickly. So we saw that on January 9th. Just emphasizing the benefits of this project and, increasing that capacity. And then the other piece of this too is this location is really usually the first location to flood in the storm. We'll see flooding occur here first versus anywhere else in the city. So we really keep a close eye on this gauge. So looking at the project features that help alleviate flooding, the major component of the project is 2 bypass channels through the city open space between the 101 and the creek, which I'll get to on subsequent slides. There's also sediment removal of the creek. So any built up accumulation of debris, such as under the Marsh Street Bridge that might minimize capacity of the bridge. We want to remove that and maximize flow through there. We're also doing bench grading, which is basically channel widening, where the channel pinch points are narrow and reduced and constrict the flow of the creek, widen the channels, provide that additional capacity, which happens at Bianchi Bridge, which is also being replaced and doubled in length at a bypass channel. And then a huge benefit to the project is just removal of non-native plants and vegetation. So once you remove the overgrowth within the creek, that allows less restrictive flow through the creek, adding capacity and velocity through the creek. So all these features combined increase the flow by about 40% of the 25-year storm, which might not sound like a lot, but it actually reduces floodwater elevations by 6 to 18 inches, depending on where you are in the project limits. And if you think back to that picture at Bianchi, where the water was just over the top of the curve, reducing 6 inches in flood height could actually save private properties from flood inundation. So it could benefit a lot of people. This is the overview of the project limits. And sorry, the text is a little bit hard to read, but north is to the right. This is the intersection of Marsh and Niagara, the Marsh Street Bridge. And again, down here is Madonna off the screen to the left. So I'll get some more detail on these sections here. Sediment removal, I mentioned, this is Marsh Street Bridge. This is what it looks like after the city did a sediment removal project in the fall of last year to maximize flow through there. So this project would remove any additional sediment that accumulates under that bridge. There was 2 barrels under the bridge. I think this one was completely clogged. So removing that was really key to maximizing capacity. We also put some rock slope protection on the side. This is the Bianchi Lane Bridge, which probably nobody here has probably actually even crossed. It's very rarely used, but this is the Madonna property. This is their sort of courtyard I mentioned. And then this is Bianchi, and it's a pretty small bridge. It's about 110 years old, and will be replaced and doubled in span. This is an aerial, what the bypass channels will look like. There's the highway on the top side. Slow Creek is in gray here. What these bypass channels will do will divert flood water starting at Bianchi, which is why the bridge is being widened, and diverting any flood water through the open space and reconverging with Slow Creek. And then same thing at South Street. We've got city-owned open space over here. So this will divert any flood stage water through the bypass channel for additional capacity. Channel widening, it's hard to see here, but there's one location where there's 2 buildings that are directly across from each other. They have vertical embankments in the creek. So there's literally a building corner here and it's straight down to the creek. So very constrictive. The city will remove that building with the project and bench back the creek kind of in this direction, just to provide that additional capacity there.
What building is that?
That is the Coast Rider Sports. They have a shop in the back. Yeah. So we're working on acquiring an easement for that removal. And then I mentioned the habitat benefits. So there's a lot of trees and growth in this area. We're removing the non-native species, removing 300 trees, 150 trees, but planting 300. So a condition of the environmental permits is
for replacement of the trees. And we have habitat improvements for this project. So this project has been around since 2003 when it was in the waterway management plan. It really started initial design probably about 10 years ago with funding from Zone 9. So we've been working on it over the past 10 years, every year making progress on the project. The project received an EIR in 2017, which was when we really started to kick off design. And over the last few years, we've gotten really far, but we've had some major challenges in timeline for this project. A big component of these is just environmental permitting. So every time we work within the creek, we need permits from the Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and Regional Water Quality Control Board. We just secured those permits, which took about 2 years from permit application to securing of permits. Properties extend within the creek. You wouldn't think, but property boundaries can go beyond the creek and go to the center of the creek. So in order to access the site, we actually have to get easements from property owners to do some of this vegetation removal. Certainly the bridge replacement needs permanent easements. And so property acquisition has been a challenge for the project, and that takes some time. We're about halfway through the easements that we need to acquire, but still some to go. And then utility relocations have been challenging. There are several, all these utilities shown on Bianchi that are outside of the city's franchise agreement with utilities. So typically, if a utility company is within our right of way, then they have to remove their facilities and relocate. We actually have to secure public utility easements on their behalf in order to remove and replace the bridge and widen the channel. So that's been time consuming, but we're working on that and making progress there as well. And then I think the biggest challenge of this project is just the short construction window. Any work within the creek per the regulatory permits has to occur between June and October, which if you're replacing a bridge, widening channels, doing all the vegetation work that we're doing is a very short window. So timing is everything. And our goal is to secure a contract and award a contract well in advance of this window so that contractor can enter the creek with maximum efficiency. So we're looking at getting that in place later this year. In looking at timeline, the city's hoping to advertise, get our easements acquired, get our final plans in place by the fall of this year. We're about here where this red line is. So we've got a few months to go to advertise this fall. And ideally, if everything goes perfectly, then we'll have a contract in place by the end of the year and have a contractor on board early 2025 in order to hit that creek window in the time we need to. There's a lot of lead up to actually getting in there and doing the work because with the bridge replacement, contractor has to manufacture the bridge, and it's a precast bridge. So a lot of submittals and approvals have to occur before a lot of that work can happen. And then looking at budget, total project budget is about 11.8 million based on current estimates. We've got a $6 million grant from DWR, which we've extended through the end of 2025. It's Proposition 1 grant. So that covers about half the project. City has funded 4 million of it, and County Zone 9 is providing 1.6 million. And this Zone 9 funding covers the habitat and environment improvements, as well as the silt removal components of the project. So yeah, it's pretty expensive. And that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Yeah, does the extra capacity of the new channel equal the spill out in the 100-year floodplain? So do you get to retire that 100-year floodplain back in towards the spring?
No, the 100-year floodplain is going to be where it's shown still. What it will do is change the 25-year floodplain limits. Yeah, so there's a 40% increase in the 25-year storm, which isn't the full 25-year storm, right? It's not as far as we would love to be, but it's a step in the right direction to lower that floodwater surface elevation in
more frequent storms. So it'll alleviate the risk during those frequent storms, but not the 100-year storm. You'll still see flooding through downtown because it's the downtown city culvert that actually is the major constriction in the 100-year storm.
What happens if it becomes October 31st and you haven't completed a project?
Yeah, and that happens. We are, as long as it's not raining, we have more flexibility. We've got a city biologist that has really good contacts with the permitting agencies, and we can't just, if we're in the creek, we can't just stop, right? So we will work as long as we can with their approvals and their oversight in order to get things done and get out of there as quickly as possible. But
It's not a hard
October,
day.
it is, it's hard, it's a hard day, but you know, they're gonna look for us to actually meet it. But there are extenuating circumstances with every project. Any other questions?
I was just curious about the channels that we were talking about. Can you just kind of get a better picture of how big these channels are and how you're
Oh.
gonna maintain them from year to year?
Yeah, the bypass channels?
Yes.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, so they're 20-foot wide at the base. And I think there's 2-to-1 slope, so they're pretty wide here. They're as wide as the creek is currently. Maintenance will be a challenge with the South Street bypass because there is no access. But with the Yankee bypass, we're building a ramp down in order to get equipment in there to haul up any debris or waste in that area. Yeah.
And they're kind of rocky and planted and kind of like mock creeks almost.
No, they're
Concrete?
designed to be as unrestricted to flow as possible, but they will be planted with seed mix to, what we don't want is a flood to come through a year after, right, and erode the whole bypass channel. So we're gonna put down some jute netting and material to basically hold the soil in place, plant some seed to get some growth to minimize any erosion if a storm does come through. But there won't be any rock slope protection or anything other than what's needed to protect some curvature to keep erosion at the bends and things like that. But yeah, they will be unrestricted. The planting will occur outside of those bypass channels. So we are removing trees for construction of those. And any plantings will occur, you know, wherever they can be outside of the embankments of those bypass channels.
Last, is there gates that open this so that the water flows, or is this just some flow level that goes up?
It's a flow level things. Yeah, so these will be dry in normal flows. I think once we exceed a 2-year storm flow, then you'll get some flow through the bypass channels. So they're above the ordinary high water mark of the creek. And once that's exceeded, then they're
It just kind of does it.
Yeah.
There, thank you.
Brian, where Madonna Road, entrance is to the freeway, on the south side. Yeah, it's visible if you come onto that, from Madonna Road onto the freeway. There's an embankment that has been riprap there, and is very visible from the freeway entrance.
Oh, yeah. I think,
You know what I'm talking
Yeah, I
about?
think
Okay,
Caltrans
it's
did that.
just south of the Madonna, but right there.
Yeah.
Now, was that done due to one of the storms, or was that an early portion of stabilizing that bank before the big rains that El Nino was bringing this year? Or was that actually a starter portion of this project?
so you're talking about south of the Madonna overcrossing. If you're getting.
Yeah, if you're on Madonna Road and you're getting on the freeway heading north.
So just north of Madonna.
Yeah.
Just north.
Okay.
It's
and
Caltrans.
just across
That was-
Madonna Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, that was actually done by Caltrans in response to the 2023 storms. So that's within their right of way to protect their on-ramp, to protect their facility. Outside of the scope of this project, just as a protective measure for their highway facility.
Now, did they have to coordinate with the city or with you and the county on this project there, or was that something they came in to do as a preemptive move on their own.
They did it on their own, independent of any coordination to protect their facility. I think it was all within their right of way. Yeah, yeah, and that's the interesting thing about the creek. It knows no right of way boundaries or, invisible lines. It, goes where it wants to. So with Caltrans doing work within their right of way, they didn't need to coordinate with the city.
So, you mentioned you're gonna put equipment in here to maintain it. Are you gonna need special permits for that? Are you at all concerned about it becoming that?
So no, if we need to maintain the creek, we would need a permit. Any future vegetation management within the top of bank of the creek, we would, under a permit. But anything in the bypass channels with outside of the creek permitting windows, and it's not in the regular flow channel, so we could get in there with equipment. And
Even if you ever developing into all that.
In the bypass channels? I don't think so. That's not the plan of the project. Yeah. If it's permanently flooded, then it might be a different story.
Thank you for this great presentation, and we recognize the irony that 2 years ago at WRAC, we were really focused on bringing in speakers about drought. And then this time we're like, oh my God, it's that storm, rainwater management. And so it's great to kind of hear this big project and just, the almost 20 years of development that's taken. And clearly a priority, because this whole area can't really develop either until this part gets managed to a certain extent. Are there other kind of at this scale flood management projects for the city itself, or is this kind of address the main thing?
Yeah, the city has 14 locations for ongoing silt removal that zone 9 actually funds on a yearly basis. So we typically do the Profumo arm, some silt removal there at LVR and Profumo to clear up the creek, because that has a grade change from the hills to the lake, which deposits sediment routinely and impacts the flow through there. And then, there's 13 other sites across town that we
Those that are maintenance
related.
versus a major project like this, which is an infrastructure.
And then, so the one that we did in response to the 2023 storms was the Profumo, the larger project on Profumo arm, which actually cleared the flood channel back to like its original state when it was constructed, because Profumo arm was actually diverted to construct the homes there at Laguna Lake. So it's not a natural channel, and it was diverted, and basically sediment is built in. So that was a major project the city did under emergency authority. Last year, we're working with FEMA for reimbursement on that. The other one that we've done that was just completed with San Luis Drive, that big retaining wall out there, which was eroded due to the flood. It was basically eroding the roadway there and putting facilities and access to the neighborhood at risk too. So we do many other projects, and we've got more on the list that we've completed. But this is, I think, the largest in scale of all of the other city projects that we've done or are working on.
Yeah, thank you.
One question about farther down. You're getting a higher delivery rate to the downstream end of your project, which presumably either will generate some backwater or certainly raise the level rather more than we normally have behind DMV and all the way down to the treatment plant. Is that part of the analysis? Do they want to do that?
Analysis of whether the creek levels will increase as a result of this?
Yes, because you're going to have now 2 channels running into 1 channel, whatever that's for.
There won't be any creek impacts downstream based on the hydraulic analysis. Yeah, so we've done a hydraulic model here before and after, and actually the elevation of Slow Creek at the very end of the project is equivalent to what it is preconditioned. So it's a very localized flood mitigation project. Really, the benefits are in this, within the project boundary, within the limits of the project. Yeah, and the surrounding developments here, because it does flood up to Higuera Street, and actually it gets up to BB Street as well, and like a 25-year storm. So that'll reduce the area of flood impacts and make it closer to the creek, because it's pretty flat in there. But those impacts, are basically not to anything downstream. Yeah. The biggest benefit really is increasing flow through Marsh Street Bridge, because once it overtops Marsh Street, then it just flows all the way down Higuera, and it actually finds the creek again at Elks Lane. So it passes the Caltrans building, goes all the way down by the cemetery there, and then finds its way back in the creek. So one thing I didn't touch on, but the benefit is trying to get any water that actually overtops the bridge back into the creek as soon as possible, so that those down in this area don't see the impacts of that. And the city owns this. It's called Matthews Open Space. We own that. Part of this project will try to divert the flows back into the creek at that location if they exceed the bridge capacity at Marsh Street. So just trying to get everything back in the creek.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. One is your budget lines up very nicely. Are the funds incoming all committed? You're certain of those?
So that's always the challenge is this line right here is an estimate. So we've seen cost escalation of, double digits over the last few years. We've updated those cost estimates. They are estimates. We won't know until we get bids what it truly is, but this is the best information we have, which shows that the project is fully funded.
And as far as the funds to pay for it, are those?
Those are committed, yes. Yeah, so the city approved funding with the current financial plan of the amount shown here, 4.1 million. The second half of that funding amount actually gets appropriated with the July 1st budget supplement. And then the county has approved, the Zone 9 has approved this amount of funding to
And my other point is that project on San Luis Drive made traffic there a nightmare. So to what extent will this project affect the traffic patterns?
I think it'll be minimal. What we'll see is perhaps some impacts here at the bridge, just to get equipment down into the creek. But I think most of the equipment will just come in through this open space here and the Bianchi Bridge up here at South Street. So access to the limits are on off side streets, South Street and Bianchi primarily. There will be some equipment coming in and out, but I don't think there'll be any major road closures of South Street for any extended period of time, because of the project just being, off the street.
Clarity in where you're supposed to go would be really helpful.
With traffic
For
control.
those of us who drive San Luis Drive quite a bit, in that case, like almost from day to day, you wouldn't know for sure exactly where you were supposed to go. And I would ask friends who live there, to what extent was that changing? Well, it changes often. And then they also didn't seem to understand exactly what was being done. So good communication, I think, for those in the neighborhood. Is great.
That's good feedback. Thank you. Yeah, I think we try to get the word out, and sometimes the news blasts and Instagram aren't the right methods for some folks, but we have a communications team that we coordinate with, and I'll extend that feedback for them to make sure traffic control is,
I know I could go on all day, but there's so many questions.
No question here, just a comment with a historical perspective.
That was my question.
Nice presentation. I'm a member of Zone 9 committee, have been for a few years. When I first came on council, and one of my first votes early on in 2001 maybe, was a mid-Higuera specific plan that envisioned bike lanes all the way down by the creek, but not respecting what we had in our city policies and the creek setback. Well, coming from a bit of an environmental background, I voted no. That was just not good planning in my thoughts. Jump way forward and I find myself on the Zone 9 committee working on that project here. Although not with bike path plans, I think we've come to realize that there aren't places for bike paths down on that side of the creek if we're going to be putting in the bypasses and respecting the environment down there. There's no room right behind the building without really infringing on the creek banks and all. But also, I didn't like the waterway management plan when that came out in 2003. Dam up Reservoir Canyon as a possibility. I brought this up in Zone 9 and even here too. And plans change over years, things change. And that's just a little bit ironic to me to find myself here now, kind of helping this project along when so many years ago I had voted against some other projects right in the same area. So stick around because you never know.
So for clarification, this is just for handling the 25-year flood. It doesn't go beyond the bigger giant 100-year flood, the 500, the massive flood. This really just addresses this, what I call a short-term.
The more
issue.
frequent return period storms, this will help alleviate flood risk. Yeah, it doesn't solve flooding. It minimizes risk of flooding in, the 2, 10, 25-year storms. Yeah. So yeah, the 100-year storm will still flood this area because the 100-year storm exceeds the capacity of Slow Creek before you get to downtown. Downtown is already flooded in a 100-year storm, and it just continues all the way down.
So do we have history of how frequent these storms are? Like, what's the history here that we charted for our county and city or something?
Yeah, so I didn't have photos of it, but we had some flooding in 1995 in this area as well. So that's about, that 25-year period. 1973 was the year that the 100-year storm occurred. And there was, I think,
1973 was the 100-year one. Okay,
Yeah.
That's what.
or no, sorry, it was 69.
Oh, 60.
69.
But 73 was a big one too, because I think that's when where Marty's Diner is, where the freeway was underwater there at Los Osos Valley Road. And the freeway, I have photographs, old photographs of all of that underwater. Yeah.
The city's website, if you go to San Obispo city.com, whatever, slowcity.org, sorry. You Google and search flood photos, you can find these pictures. I actually just scrolled through to find the ones that were applicable to the site, but we've got kind of a catalog of flood photos in there. If you're ever curious, there's aerials in there that show the extensive flooding during the 1969 flood. There's newspaper clippings, kind of have the description.
Yeah, and remember, Marsh Street wasn't just named that because that was a cute name.
Oh.
There aren't a lot of basements along that area there either, the creek's right there, and it's old. We built down in the lowland, right next to the creek in the valley is where the founding fathers built this town, right down in the middle of it.
Well, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay. We're on to item 6, which is discuss the ad hoc subcommittee's report on the water sections of the Dana Reserve project EIR and consider actions. So just a bit of history. I think this came back to the WRAC in November and we discussed it. And Linda, do you want to bring us up to speed on anything that's happened in the interim?
I am not aware of the fact that anything has happened since that last planning commission hearing. which was at the end of October. What has occurred is that we decided at that time, at our November meeting, that we would file it and keep it and wait till the Board of Supervisors were going to consider it at one of their meetings. And that date has been calendared, and it's April 23rd and 24th. So it's time to bring our analysis of the water section of the EIR for the project and to decide what we want to do with it. And there are three options. One is we can send it, not send it, or we can amend it and send it. I don't see any reason to amend it and not send it. So there's only three options. In that time, there's been a number of issues and things that have come up, I think, with the project, but they seem to focus in on the socioeconomic traffic considerations, just a variety of other considerations that go along with looking at a project this big. Water has not at any point been an issue with anybody that's looked at it. And in fact, the planning commission, there's nothing in their record that water was talked about. So it's time to decide what this group wants to do with it. Is there something I should have told you?
I think the one thing that, just in terms of why it makes sense for RAC to wait, to have waited in the first place, but at this point that that sending it has value, I guess is what you were kind of sharing.
Well, we had set up the committee and back in June, I think it was, because we anticipated that the EIR would be coming out before our first fall meeting. And indeed, that's what happened. It came out and there were a couple of weeks 30 days to review it, and that happened in August, so that we were able to do our initial presentation to you in September. And I should tell you that the committee members were Jim Guthrie and Ed Eby and Steph Wall and Eric Greening, Doris Howard, David Kipping, and myself. So there were 7 of us, and 5 of us got together and did the reviewed it. I will say that we did look at some of the other hydrologic concerns, or we talked that there were other hydrologic concerns that affected the subbasin down there, but they weren't a part of the purview of what we were in to do with the water portion of the EIR. So we didn't consider that. And that's why our reviewing the report that we did from the ad hoc committee, it was 6 months ago. But I think it still stands the way it does. But if somebody has other observations or has something to say about it, we should definitely talk about it.
Linda, my question is, and I did review again what was written here, but unless I'm missing something, the committee on reviewing the final EIR seemed to agree that there weren't any major water issues.
Yes.
Has anything come to light since this was written in the last few months that would be of concern? If there are no problems, then I don't know why we should submit a paper saying, oh, yeah, we agree with the EIR and we've done that, when we have other things that we often don't agree with and haven't had a committee or submitted oppositions to some kinds of developments, or have had opposition to some developments due to water issues. And here we don't seem to have any dog in this fight, because what's the studies that have been done seem to, according to what I'm reading here and according to what I think the committee review states, that there's there are no issues or concerns.
And we didn't know that going in. And our mission as a RAC is to look at water.
Exactly.
And if we didn't find anything, there's no reason to sit on it. I mean, in my thought, it should go to the board, because if there is an issue out there we missed, you know, raise it, but so far I don't have anything on it.
In the back or behind it, actually.
And then behind, and then,
When this came before the WRAC originally, and it was decided to essentially do nothing after the report was filed, I was disappointed because I thought it had value to people who were going to be decision makers in the future. And lo and behold, it went before the planning commission. They didn't have access to this. And a lot of questions got asked that are answered in here. And since then, I've been to several public meetings where opponents to the dam reserve have brought up non-issues that were put to bed in here. And that certainly would be a benefit to the board of supervisors to have this as part of their data package. Because this answers a lot of the questions that people ask over and over and over again, like, have you thought of these cells? Have you thought of cash for grass? You know, those are old issues, not part of what we're talking about in here. And the important questions that this asks and answers, I think, are important for the decision makers, who can be the board of supervisors, to have at their access, so that when the public comes in this 2-day marathon session in April, that a lot of these questions will be at hand and they can answer them easily, or the inquisitive public will have read them in this, if this is part of the staff report. So I think that there's nothing wrong with providing information.
yeah.
And there is something wrong with having information and not making it available. And the important thing here is the line I read in the report said, no substantial issues associated only with water supply and wastewater appear to be obstacles to the project. And that was really our conclusion. Now, people are opposed to this for a lot of other reasons, and picking out trees, air pollution, traffic, and so forth. That's true, but it's none of our business. And I think what is our business should be to give this wisdom to board of supervisors before their meetings on the 23rd.
Yeah, Mark Zimmer, General Manager of Golden State. So I did want to touch on the water issues a little bit. And by way of background, Golden State operates 2 water systems on the Mesa. We're a partner agency of the Napomo Supplemental Water Project, and we rely heavily on the groundwater basin. So in addition to that, the Mesa is part of the San Maria Valley groundwater basin. We have 4 additional water systems in Santa Barbara County. So we're well vested in the stipulation and the rules and the background on the stipulation. And we do have some concerns with this project. And we submitted substantial, very detailed comments. It was actually an 8-page comment, probably more than what the planning commission should have had at that time. But they came at the last minute because we were trying to work through some of our concerns and get them addressed. We weren't able to do that. So those comments are in the record under the planning commission. I highly recommend people go look at those and really get the details of the background. I think overarching, this project is important for our housing. We need to work through this to get the housing that we need for this area. So not that I'm opposed to the project in any way. I'm more reflecting on the impacts of the water supply and Golden State customer. And so with that, you know, the concern in the report is that it addresses both the groundwater and the Pueblo Supplemental Water Project. Both of those are covered in detail in the stipulation and in the agreements in the stipulation. Like I say, Golden State participated in the Pueblo Supplemental Water under certain characterization of that project. And we're feeling that this is now stepping out of how it was characterized in that final EIR. So we have specific concerns. And there's comments in that EIR for the Nepal supplemental water that this conflicts with. And then in addition, the overarching stipulation of the groundwater basin regarding development and utilization of the groundwater. Both of these water supplies are joined together, and those are the water supplies that are analyzed for this development. So to me, I don't feel that the report went into enough detail to really satisfy that level of concern. And I would like for either, you mentioned 3 options, one to not send it, the other would be to reevaluate it, make some of those adjustments and get the details out there, because it is a very complex situation. And unless you dive into the details, the history, to fully understand it, what was presented on a higher level does make sense when you look at that. So I understand that, but you got to dive into the details and get into the specifics of both the groundwater and the
I would tend to disagree with that and agree with Ed. That the committee, when it looked at the report, looked at what the report said and commented on it. And there was a statement, of course, in there about how the agreement with Santa Maria was made, with definitive allocations to the other agencies that were there. But the reason I was submitting this is, you may remember, we received a letter from 5 cities that objected to our draft. And I don't think what they were saying was factually correct. But if they submit the same sort of letter to the board, then we need to have what we said in there in the record. So I would recommend sending it unchanged.
Any other thoughts? Yes.
I have a couple things, couple comments. One is that I don't think as a group, we should necessarily shy away from sending something in that is not necessarily in opposition. I'm not, in other words, I think that the board is expecting us to look at water resource issues or things that come up in the county. To that end, I would say generally, I'm not opposed to forwarding it, even though our firm is involved in game reserve. I would just add that there's nothing nefarious going on as far as the project is concerned. They're working with the community right now. And that's really, and there's, county staffing and all, it's just taken a long time. It's a big project, taking a long time to get back to the board. There's nothing behind the scenes going on. It's unusual. Just working with community members.
Jim?
So when we looked at it the second time, when the letter came in, I think it was fair to say that our viewpoint was that was the legal issue rather than an environmental water issue that would be settled between those agencies. And that the actual water piece of it was solid. So, it was solid, and that there may be a legal issue that Golden State or cities or that may want to at this point. None of that's come to fruition, but and I'll just echo that. I mean, we're an advisory body, we don't have to be in the dog fight. So sometimes we don't bark, but we're still there. Our dog is ours.
I do know that when the NCMA letter came in from their staff, we did look at what they had to say, and it was the feeling that the letter appeared to be interpretations of past stipulations and adjudications. And those were not a part of our scope in terms of what we were looking at. So that's the reason why the ad hoc committee felt that it should go forward the way it was.
I appreciate all the comments I have heard here, and I'm ready to move that we forward this report to the Board of Supervisors.
I'm ready to second. If there's a motion.
I moved it.
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Should we do a roll call vote so the people are disagreeing?
I mean, any discussion?
Oh, any discussion? Yes.
Yes, I always think it's a good idea to revisit what you've written in the past, even if it's recent, and just have a deep dive, not a deep dive, but have a dive into your document again. And make sure that it's in a presentable state, that you didn't miss something, that maybe you learned something new. More information came out before you send it to the board, that's all.
Can I just ask that you do look at the comments that we submitted? You know, I fully understand your position to move forward and to send it in, that's okay. But if you could look at those comments and understand that it's very detailed and complex situation, so I just asked you to look at those comments.
May I ask a clarification?
Yes.
Will we send this report with a cover letter from the chair? Or just, Secretary, the RAC has provided these comments on this item. Just wanted to double check.
I'll amend my motion to add that the chair of the ad hoc subcommittee and
I would say the chair of RAC.
the chair of RAC.
You have a cover
Oh, is
letter.
that the question?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, it should be a cover letter from the chair of RAC and perhaps signed also with the chair of this committee, or the committee members might be even named on that. But I'm not sure, I will take that back. What is protocol on that? Would there, I don't think the board needs to know this.
Right,
ad
I think-
hoc
I think
committee,
it's-
right, just from the RAC. No, this
I
would
think
be
less is more, so,
yeah,
yeah.
thank you. So, no, this
Thank you,
is for the RAC. We had a subcommittee, we, as a RAC, are gonna vote on whether or not we're going to accept that report and forward it to the board. So it would be to the board with a cover letter from the president or the chair of our committee.
Yeah, and I asked because in that cover letter that we could acknowledge that members of the RAC member agencies have also submitted comments individually and to cover others. Just, I know I'm not a voting member here, but just want to make sure we're covering everything.
And the cover letter can acknowledge that maybe there will be dissensions in the RAC committee, but the majority of the RAC will be, if we vote on this, vote for sending it, then that would be acknowledged in the RAC, in the cover letter.
Chair.
Yes.
You know, honestly, I fully agree with Andy. You know, the more succinct you can be with the cover letter where it just says, here's RAC's, you know, review or whatever. I think we have a ton of those floating around from previous reports. I think you just try to stay on task and not get diverted, notwithstanding Mark's comment, because I'm sure they're in there. It requires that they respond to them. So I don't think we should get too off base.
We studied it, we discussed it, we debated it, and here's our findings.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further comments?
By the way, I second whatever you said about it.
Right. Roll call. Yeah, should we do a roll call? And I assume, Christine, your motion, just to clarify, would be to send it without waiting for a comment or to read for a second review, correct?
No more review, we're gonna send it now, is the motion. We have approved what we have talked about, discussed it here, and yes, I move that we send this report to the Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Yeah, that too, yeah.
And by the way, the April 23rd, 24th Board of Supervisors meeting is not that far away. Right. They need time to absorb this and digest it.
Understood. All right. Okay. Any further discussion? All right, then we'll call for the question. Call the roll, Brendan.
Tom Burhan.
Aye.
John Winstead.
Aye.
Mary Van Ryn.
Abstain, 'cause I just- if I don't have it all here in this packet, I haven't read it all.
Okay.
This is the packet?
That is,
Okay,
yeah,
that's all of it.
it's just two pages, three
Okay.
pages.
You're gonna stay abstain.
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain.
Tim Walters.
Thumbs up.
Okay. Christine Mohan.
Yes.
David Chipping.
Yes.
Linda Chipping.
Yes.
Tom Morrow. Jamie Hendrickson.
Aye.
Steve Carter.
Yes.
Matt Cook.
No.
Lee Nesbitt.
Yes.
Jim Guthrie.
Yes.
Clint Warwick.
Yes.
Andy Pease.
Yes.
Jim Green.
Aye.
Thank you. Scott Duffield.
Yes.
Ron Munz. Ed Eby.
Yes.
And okay. Carries.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Good discussion. All right, on to the next item, which is ongoing updates. So I'll just go through them here quickly. If anybody has anything, please speak up. So rain and reservoir report, drought updates, groundwater basin management effort. Yes, sir.
So the slow basin annual report for the GSP is available for public comment. This comes today, I believe, or yesterday. So you can find it on the website. Also, the city has received an award for our groundwater cleanup program. So we have a Prop 1 grant for $6.6 million. That's going to help us install 2 new extraction wells with water treatment system on there. That's going to clean up the groundwater and then put that water into the treatment.
Very good. All right. Groundwater basin management efforts. Oh,
Along the
yes.
same lines, I'll mention the Paso Basin GSG report is also out. And comments are due, I believe it's March 15th. Anyone's interested in the Paso?
Oh, yes. I think a lot of people are. Anything else on groundwater?
Yeah, Tom.
Oh, yeah.
Joey?
Yeah, we were gonna have staff present today to update on the Adelaide study.
Yes.
But I do have some notes here on their behalf. So for the Adelaide area hydrogeologic study, the study is wrapping up task 2, which consists of data collection through the monitoring network that's been established. There are two more rounds of groundwater measurements that will go through summer 2024. And stream gauge monitoring will continue through the end of the year. And USGS, RCD, and county staff will be developing recommendations for future tasks for the study, which may include some in-depth or interpretive analysis of the data that's been collected so far. So that's to be determined, but the community meeting from February 27th was recorded and it's posted on our webpage. And so RCD, USGS, and our county contacts are on the website if there are more questions.
Very good. Thank you, Joey. Integrated regional water management. Master water report update. Anything, Brendan, on that? Okay. State water project. Desalination. Other county water programs, policy and ordinances. And open reporting on water conservation opportunities and information. All right, seeing no hands, we'll move on to item 8, future agenda items. Anybody have anything to add to our list of future agenda items? Not seeing anything, we'll move on to public comment for items not on the agenda. Anybody in the room? Anyone online?
No.
No? All right, David,
But we got an
couldn't
update
resist,
on
yes.
The guys that are flying at big people over the county. And in terms of groundwater recharge and things like that, we'll get the standard people, we'll get the things on there.
We can add it to future items and see if we can arrange that. So,
Got that evaporation, monitoring of the air.
no, that's, I think that's satellite. This is a big antenna that hangs below a helicopter, I think, in the. Yeah.
Our, it looks like late this year, David, late this year. Late this year, late 2024 is when its date is expected.
So, any other public comments? If not, I'll adjourn the meeting and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Stay dry, people. Thank you. We'll see you in April.
Meetings rain, so. It's raining. It's a rare.
Yeah.
The last time we had WRAC and rain.
It's great.